Oh, yeah, let's go. Boots and cats, boots and cats, and boats and hoes and dicks and bows. Before we start real quick, I'm going to do a little thing here for a buddy of mine that passed away. A little salute to Rich Vanderzee. Here's to you. Refreshing. But now I have to belch. I just chugged a Budweiser. Woo! All right. Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 63, Project Monix. With me and Sreten today via phone from Chicago, Illinois, is Pat Monix. What's going on, Pat?
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing great, man. You know, had a couple of hiccups during the day. It's definitely a fucking Monday, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one.
Yeah. Real question is, how are you doing? You had a hell of a weekend with, I know for a fact with Freelance and Freelance Underground, but you had some other, I saw you tweeting or was it on Facebook, you had like 4 days.
Yeah, I had Thursday through Sunday, 4 shows, 4 matches. Every single one was a singles match, so that means it's a little bit more demanding from me versus like, a tag team or multi-man match. So to have 4 in a row, it was Thursday, it was IWA Mid-South versus Shotzi Blackheart. Friday, it was Freelance Wrestling versus Isaiah Velasquez. Saturday, it was Freelance Underground versus Kobe Durst. And then Sunday, it was Bizarro Lucha versus Apollo Star. And every single one of those wrestlers are really good, so I wanted to deliver in all of them. So, yeah, long story short, I'm exhausted.
All right, now give us some spoilers. Who'd you go over? Who didn't you go over on?
Shotzi went over on me via some interference.
God damn it!
In a hot angle with a guy named Aaron Williams, who I think you guys might know. He kind of snuck in, kicked me in the head. She didn't really see it. Hit her finisher. Friday, same story. Me versus Isaiah. Eye Candy Elliott comes in and interferes. Isaiah hits his finisher, grabs the win over me. Saturday, I beat Kobe Durst clean to defend the Freelance Underground Independent Championship. I beat him with my finisher, the final phase.
Nice. You beat the reigning defending Black Label Pro champion.
Yeah. So I'm on Black Label. Bring me in.
Yeah,
I used to wrestle there a good amount, so it'd be fun to come back. And then Sunday, lost to Apollo Star at Bizarro Lucha. He's kind of like the man in Indianapolis. He's been around for like 20 years, and it was a lot of fun to get to wrestle him. He does an incredible job of adapting to the current style, but it's also like really refreshing to wrestle someone, who came up in a different era. Yeah,
for sure, man. And no doubt. Who is, if any, I mean, I've seen you wrestle a couple times at Warrior Wrestling. Out of all, you've been wrestling what now, 4 or 5 years, something like that?
Yeah, about 4 or 5.
Is there any like legends or any big names in particular that come to mind that you're like, man, that was fucking awesome?
Yeah. Well, I did a tag match at Warrior that had Ultimate Dragon and Super Crazy in it.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, that was surreal, and just because Ultimate Dragon's such like an icon in professional wrestling in general, and so that was just like, that was just surreal. And then Super Crazy, turns out like I had never met him. He's the coolest guy ever. Like, he was just super cool to me after the show and after the match and everything.
So he's not super crazy. He's super fucking cool.
Super fucking cool. So yeah, getting to just like even the brief conversation I had with him, and yeah, that was just really cool. So I think super crazy would be the one that jumps to my mind of like being in the ring with a legend and then them turning out to be like as cool as you hope they'd be.
Right. You know that old saying, never meet your heroes. Well, I don't know if he was one of your heroes or not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like you have this idea of someone in your head, and they'll never live up to it. But it's super crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Were you a big ECW guy growing up or no?
I got introduced to it a little later. Like, I wasn't watching it at the time when it was happening. But like when ECW One Night Stand happened in like 2005 or whatever, via WWE. And RVD kind of brought it all back. Then I started watching it in hindsight, and I liked it a lot. And I liked the first stuff they were doing with RVD, and when they were bringing Sabu and stuff. Obviously, WWE ECW didn't really work out, but at first they had me,
Yeah, it was super cool. I remember that happening, and just like being a old school ECW guy. I mean, I was there when Barely Legal. I watched that on pay-per-view, their first pay-per-view, and that. I mean, that was a time when WCW was red hot. The business was just red hot as a whole. Man, it was such a good time, and thankfully we're kind of reliving that somewhat with this current boom in professional wrestling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, I got really pumped when they brought it back, but something in the back of my mind kind of told me, like, man, this is going to it's going to fail. It's WWE's version of ECW. It couldn't work,
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it could be something, but pretty quickly we learned like, this isn't that.
Yeah, it's like ECW. When I think ECW, I don't think of like, and no knock to these guys, but like Kane and Mark Henry and whoever the fuck else they had. Like the only good thing I think they did as far as developing and bringing out new stars would be obviously your CM Punks. Guys like that, and even the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro, who was a part of like the newer crop of ECW guys that I thought had some really good potential, but it ended up being like not even like a B or a C or a D show. It was just like it was pure trash.
Yeah, that's yep. It certainly turned into whatever it turned into, and I don't know how to explain it.
Thank God. I'll tell you what, though. Thank God NXT, because essentially it was NXT before NXT was around, I mean, they were using that as like a launching platform. Like, hey, let's stick these guys in ECW and, throw a few of our quote-unquote legends there and see how they do and kind of develop these guys. So, NXT, I think, is the more modern version of that, but just so much more badass.
Yeah, no, I have to imagine being if I was a wrestler in those guys' shoes who got thrown on the ECW, it's tough because like you're on this brand that has nothing to do with you. Everyone wants to see the ECW original, so everyone wants to see the legends.
Yeah.
And then now like all of a sudden you're just on this brand, and they're bringing, like you said, they're bringing guys like Kane and Big Show on it, and like it's just like what am I doing here? Versus NXT, you're supposed to be there, and the fans want to see you there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just turned into this big mosh posh of whatever it was. But each their own. I'm sure there's some people that liked it, but yeah, luckily for the young guys coming up now, NXT is just like the perfect platform to break into the WWE audience.
Well, and even guys, I was super pumped when I think in a booking standpoint, there's a good way to bring in legends, especially guys that still. Their bodies aren't too beat up and they can still go like an RVD, or I really liked it when Rhino came in. At that time I was like, man, he could still go. He can help put over talent, although I am kind of against the whole WWE method of let's bring this guy back. He could still go, but use him strictly to put guys over. I mean, with some of these legends, it's like they do have a run left in them, like give them a run, let them, put some guys over in the process and go out on a high note. But whatever, that's WWE's mentality, is just kind of shit on those dudes, especially if they were guys that left for companies like TNA or ROH or whatever,
Yeah, it's tough, it's Yeah, luckily I don't have to make any decisions like that.
Right. Have you ever did anything for WWE as far as like extra work or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done extra work for WWE 3 times. Twice in Chicago, once in Indianapolis, twice for Raw, once for SmackDown. So I had a great experience. I just left it thinking it was that place is just such a well-oiled machine. It's wild that they're on the road every single week, running various shows per week, and things go with as few hiccups as they do.
Yeah.
But getting to see the process of how everything's set up and how everyone's running around and how things are pulled off, and they're just really, really cool experience.
Oh yeah, they definitely are the be all end all. Even still with you got AEW, which I am totally in love with the idea of what they're doing and what they're bringing to the table. But like you said, WWE is a well-oiled machine, and they've been doing it longer than anybody else in the game right now. I mean, maybe minus the NWA, but it's a whole different, thing there. It's just amazing to see the amount of content they produce, and man, it's got to be killer. I play music. I've been out on the road, did a couple tours and all that. And we all know with professional wrestling, I mean, especially if you're in the WWE, you're on the road like fucking 360 days a year. Whatever it is, it's just insane. You think that's something? I mean, obviously, being a young guy, I'm sure you got it in you. And you seem pretty hungry. I mean, is that some? Obviously, at some point, you're gonna. If they called you, you'd be like, "Fuck yeah!" Right?
Yeah. It's funny to me because I see a lot of like these employees from specific wrestling companies being disgruntled and voicing their displeasures and everything like that. It's hard for me to relate because, sure, maybe someday if I am in that position, I'm in those shoes, and I live that life, I'll probably complain about the same things. But right now, from my point of view, I'm wrestling 3 or 4 shows every single weekend, and so my body hurts. It's the same wear and tear grind. Maybe it's less flights, but I'm still, like every single Thursday, I have to leave my place at 11 in the morning. So I can get at the show. It starts at 7:30 p.m. and then the show ends at 11 or 12 or whatever. And then I get in my car and I got to drive 5 hours back. So I get home at 4:30 to 5 in the morning. So it's like I'm doing that, and I'm doing it for no money.
Yeah.
So like for me, like seeing people making a fairly comfortable living, like I understand that like people are like, oh well, these WWE wrestlers have to pay for their travel and stuff like that. I get that, but so do I.
Yeah.
So for me being on the indies, it's pretty hard to say anything negative about that lifestyle. Like that lifestyle is certainly what I want right now because the envelope that I get handed at the end of the night from these shows has cash in it, but I think you'd be surprised to find out what the average indie wrestler makes because it's not glamorous.
Yeah, you know what? Yes and no. Like I said, I do music, and I've been in and out of the country, all over the country, and those envelopes were pretty much the fucking same, dude.
Yeah.
Especially with underground metal, dude. It's like, hey, even though there was like a few hundred people there, here's $20. I gotta drive to fucking Texas. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Sometimes you open the envelope and like you honestly almost want to hand it back to them.
Yeah,
it's just like
you open
like
it
really,
up, and there's a big like pop up middle finger or something that comes up. Like thanks.
Yeah. No, it's so I heard someone explain it to me once, which was really cool. Like what we do it for the passion and the love, and
right.
Obviously to turn it into a full-time career and a good living and buy a house off it someday.
Mm-hmm.
But so like let's say let's throw out a comfortable number. Let's say I'm doing a show for let's say $80. Let's say that's what I came to agreement with the promoter on.
Yeah.
Or let's say 100. Let's say 100 even. $100. I live in Chicago. Let's say a company books me in, I don't know, not even that far, Ohio. And they say, yeah, we'll book you for $100 to have a wrestling match. Yeah, okay. I'll get in my car. I'll drive all the way to Ohio.
There's your gas money.
I'll wait till the show. I'll drive all the way back. Now, if someone said, hey, I got an envelope with $100 in it. I'm stapling it to a tree. All you got to do is drive to Ohio, grab the envelope, and you can drive home. Would you do it? Absolutely not. I'm only doing it for the wrestling. You know, I'm only doing it because it's my passion, it's my career, and I'm trying to get something out of it. So, at the end of the day, like, I try not to let money ever, like, beat me up or anything like that. But, yeah, it's like when you ask me, do I want the WWE lifestyle on the road, blah, 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 absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because it's better than this. Like, it's certainly better than this.
Yeah, it's a higher scale grind.
Maybe creatively you feel stifled or controlled, and maybe that side of wrestling isn't as great. But that's what I seem to hear in these podcasts from these wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's hard for me to me, like, it seems pretty great.
Right, but you know, like you're saying too, I mean, you're still relatively new within the biz. You know, I mean, 4 or 5 years. I mean, a bump card, you might have filled up, taken quite a few punches on that card, but you're still relatively new. So it's like I say, it's that hunger is fucking there. You know, I mean, you're gonna want to do it. Whereas a lot of these guys have been doing it for a while, and I think they just want to be more comfortable, you know, as opposed to that fucking young go hard, that grind, man, like something you would have to do. And I mean, you're not going to necessarily know what that's like until you actually experience it, you know? And
absolutely. I'm paying my dues right now, and hopefully it will all pay off, and I'll get to the point where I could, get in a position like someone like, you know, Matt Hardy, like that guy's probably gonna, like, make money working for the WWE as an agent and stuff for a long time, and wrestle here and there when he wants to, and he's earned that, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But like these, like I think there's a certain point where, like, you earn that and you get to live that life, and I haven't earned it, you know.
Yeah.
So like I have to accept that, like, hey, if I want to make a career in wrestling, so that I'm about 4 or 5 years in. Probably for the next 15 years, like, I'm gonna have to be in physical pain. That's what we signed up for.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks, but it's what it is, you know.
And who knows how long, if it's gonna take you that long to get your big break. I was just listening to one of the latest episodes of Talk Is Jericho with SCU on it, and Scorpio Sky was talking. He was in the business for fucking 15, 16 years or something, and just wasn't getting anything. You know, he'd do tryouts or not even dark matches for WWE, like matches where it's basically just the boys watching in an empty arena, and you know, like, oh, that was good, but nothing, you know. Or go to Impact when they were still TNA and have a killer dark match, and then like, yeah, really great, and then nothing, you know. Like, how disheartening is that for a guy, you know, trying to do his shit that many years into the biz, you know. But that's and then to be where he's at now, in that position with AEW and SCU, which those guys they're making money now. They have something good, you know. It's just he kept that grind on, and it all goes back to what you said, the passion, you know. I mean, I'm sure, hey, our fucking numbers ain't where we want them to be at the moment, but that's, you know, that's something I always kind of put in the rear view, is the whole numbers game, because I'm passionate about what I do. I like getting people like you on here and telling their stories and shooting the shit, and hey, man, if it ends up working and we get a great formula and we can fucking throw the middle finger to the 9 to 5, then I'm all about it, you know. But you got to put in that work. And the moment you stop believing in that, much like yourself as a pro wrestler, the moment you start questioning yourself and saying, well, you know, this or that, then it's fucking over. It's that simple, you know. Yeah,
you can't quit, and it's just the blueprint's there for a wrestler. I mean, it's not hard to, like.
You're talking about Matt Morgan?
You look at the top guys. You look at, you know, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, all these, etc. Like, you know what wrestlers I'm talking about? Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
They all, you know, it didn't happen for them in 10 years. Like, it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't. Like, these guys were in their 30s when wrestling, like, paid them back, and like those guys had
mid to late 30s too, because I believe AJ's in his 40s now, I think.
I don't know, but like, I mean, sure, like those guys were making probably pretty good money on the indies because they were stars on the indies.
Yeah.
And they were also, you know, like those guys were making good money in TNA. But yeah, like if you're 29, 30, 31 and you haven't gotten WWE yet, it's not a big deal. Like,
right.
It's kind of expected. Like, for someone to get picked up at age 25, 26, 27, like, it's almost like, whoa, that you're already in WWE.
Yeah.
So,
and your name's not Guerrero or Orton or, you know, Johnson.
I just turned 26 recently, and I'm not worried. You know, like, it's
yeah,
like,
still a tenderoni.
These guys are getting signed when they're over 30. It's kind of the new blueprint. They let you learn on the indies. That's what they want. They want you to go either get good or get over, and then they'll take you. They don't want to have to worry about any risk.
Right, and that's good because for a while WWE wasn't going that route. It was like, hey, you wrestled on the indies, we don't want you. You know, like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
it just made no sense, and that was a pretty dark time in WWE. Like, people think it's bad now as far as like creative or whatever, but I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. In the mid 2000s in that John Cena era, that shit was pretty unbearable itself. You know, like.
I think 2000, like 2008 to like 2000, I guess like the beginning of 2011, like kind of like, I guess like the Nexus era. I don't know what era I would call it, but like I remember John Cena. There was like an era where like John Cena was wearing like a purple shirt. I just remember like that era of like WWE was the era where I kind of became like embarrassed to tell people that I watched, and like I kind of like. I became a closet wrestling fan, and honestly, I didn't even really watch it during that era. Like,
right.
I remember occasionally I'd turn on SmackDown and I'd still kind of enjoy it. But there was like a 3-year period where I kind of just like didn't talk to anyone about wrestling or anything. And then 2011, the summer like Punk's pipe bomb that really like swung it back around to like. Mm-hmm. Okay, this now like we're accepting this as like what it is, and like it's kind of getting cool. It's kind of getting counterculture again,
right?
And then WWE just like ran with that and started pushing other indie guys and pushing social media and being more open about like what this all is and being more interactive with the fans who wanted to be interacted with.
Yeah,
that they were ignoring them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's hard when I mean. Especially, you know, they bought out their competition. They essentially were a monopoly, and not many other companies, even like your TNAs and ROH, had great television deals. So what, you know, or could compete with the production value of a WWE. So for a long fucking time, since the buyout of ECW and WCW, I mean, that was the be all end all, you know. And I'm just so glad that that isn't the case anymore. Like, it is professional wrestling now. If you get good, you know, and they fucking recognize the kind of talent you are, there is a lot of avenues for you to travel, and you can make money. And it doesn't necessarily, guys like the Young Bucks have proved, it doesn't have to be the E, you know?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. You can do it your way if you're entertaining or talented or willing to make the sacrifices to build your entire life around it. But yeah, you do got to be all in. It's not something unless you're just like an enigma of a talent.
Like Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. There's another moniker reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just you got to be willing to just kind of like, you know, quit your job and accept that you're not going to be making much money. Find a part-time job. Sleep in cars, like live a kind of a grimy lifestyle.
Dude, it's punk rock to it. Like I said, dude, it's so weird because all the wrestling shit, like these guys and what you guys go through on the indies, I relate so much. I mean, I've never wrestled professionally. I did amateur for 3 years as a kid, but I've been a huge wrestling mark since I was popped out of the womb. You know, like But doing music, it's the same shit. I can't tell you how many like decent jobs I had. And then you find out it's like, well, hey, we're playing Mexico or we're going here or Arizona or something. Ah, fuck. You know, like, I don't have time to give notice. I had to quit. I would go out on the road broke and come home broke. You know, like that fucking grind. And that's something that you really have to just like adjust to and really be passionate about it and figure shit out, because that's just the way it is until you get a break, you know?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I tried at first, when I was first breaking in wrestling, I tried to have a full-time job. And if you want to treat wrestling like a full-time job, there's not enough hours in a week to have
No.
two careers. You could have two jobs, but you can't have two careers.
Exactly.
Like, if you're truly pouring like your heart and soul and passion and energy into it, like wrestling, you know, like you don't even think about like all the other like things that go into it. Like, sure, you got to do in-ring training and you got to get to your shows for your matches. That takes all day. Oh, you also got to get over to the gym. So like between all that, to work a 5-day-a-week 9 to 5, like it's just not really going to work. You're not going to have the energy to get over to the gym or get over to the training center or make it to your shows. You're not going to have the availability to do like Thursday or Friday shows. Now you can only wrestle on Saturdays. And you could wrestle on Sundays, but it has to be local because you can't make it back in time for your Monday work.
Yeah.
So like, you really like, you gotta like, I mean, there's people who do it. There's people who pull off having a job, but they certainly go about it in their own way. You got to find what works for you. But yeah, like for me, like I'm not working right now. I'm just wrestling. So that's why I have to do so many shows. But like last year I was driving Uber on the side to make extra cash, you know. This year I'm lucky enough that like I'm doing okay enough on merchandise. I'm doing okay enough on getting my rate from promoters where I'm leaving shows with cash in my wallet, but I'm not living some lavish lifestyle. Like I just
still eating some White Castles, right?
I just rented and I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I mean, this is I'm not here to like not say what my life is. Like, I like
keep it real.
I like to be transparent with wrestling fans and like be honest. But like, I just the last 2 months ago I moved in with some friends who had an empty room. They gave me a very affordable deal, and I have a bed on the floor. You know, like it's not. I'm not in some nice situation. But I hear from all like these other guys that I look up to, like the names we mentioned earlier, like the Daniel Bryans of the world. Like, he was sleeping in a cot at the dojo, you know? So it's like, it is what it is. Like, that if I want to go down this road, I know what I signed up for.
Yeah. Just make sure there's no distractions, no girlfriends, no children or nothing like that. Yeah.
Well, you can't, you really, I mean, the second that stuff pops up, like that's a whole nother avenue we could talk about for hours. But luckily I'm single and don't have any children, so nothing's holding me back from wrestling right now. And but I've seen it happen to a lot of people. Like, it's like, I don't mean to say it's over, because it's not over. You can work your way around it, but like, it can be a lot harder.
Yeah, it's difficult. It wears on you mentally and, you know, physically.
You can imagine.
So what ignited your passion for professional wrestling? What first got you into it, and how old were you?
So it's kind of funny. Like, I just grew up like as a kid who I like sports. Like my dad put me on the basketball and football, so I'd watch the Bulls, and he was actually from Wisconsin, so I'd watch the Packers, which is kind of funny from being from Chicago. But I like Michael Jordan, and I like Brett Favre, and like I looked at those guys as like superheroes, and they were like, you know, those guys were like my idols. But then like one day, you know, like wrestling pops up, and I saw it the same way. You know, I just like I see Michael Jordan and I see Brett Favre. That's how I saw like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I just was like, oh, this is cool. I like wrestling. My cousins like had the toys and the video games. I didn't have any of that stuff yet, but they kind of introduced me a bit to it. And so I knew what wrestling was. I liked it. And then one day I was at Best Buy and I bought the Shawn Michaels Boyhood Dream DVD. And that's when I was really like, because that was like the first, like, because I was just watching it on TV. You know, I was watching Raw. And,
the boyhood dream has come true.
Yeah. I was just watching like the product that was presented on TV. But like once I had the DVD that like showed a good amount of like behind the scenes and interviews and like just a little peel back into the curtain and this guy's journey to the WWE Championship, I was like, holy shit, like I want to be Shawn Michaels. The same way I wanted to be like Michael Jordan or Brett Favre, you know?
Except Shawn Michaels was a sexy boy.
So he was a sexy boy. And so Shawn Michaels' Boyhood Dream DVD was what really made me like get passionate about wrestling instead of it just being like, you know, as a kid I liked baseball too, and I liked whatever
Wade Boggs.
Yeah, you know, you just thought it was all cool. Like, oh, this is something that I watch. But that DVD got me like really into it, and then I started watching the product a lot closer. I started, you know, getting the video games for myself instead of just playing them when I was at my cousin's.
Were you playing N64?
I had all that stuff. I had all the N64 games. I had a lot of the PS2 games. So yeah, I had the WCW, NWO Revenge or whatever.
Oh, fuck yeah!
I had
No
WrestleMania
Mercy.
2000. Yeah, WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy. But I didn't play those games like an excessive amount, to be honest. What the game that I played an excessive amount was once it got to PlayStation 2 and SmackDown vs. Raw came out.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of like that's like the age when I got like more into video games. I was in like middle school when those games came out. So I was like, how old would you be in middle school? 11 or 12? I feel like that was like my big like hooked on video games, getting kind of nerdy era. Yeah. I played a lot of SmackDown vs. Raw.
Those games were tight back in the day, though. I liked them, you know.
Yeah, I think like when the N64 stuff was going on, I was playing outside a little more, and then when the PS2 stuff was coming out, that's when I was more of a gamer.
Right.
So that was like my gaming era. But yeah, that's how I like got really turned into a wrestling nerd.
Hell yeah. And never look back, right?
Yeah, and then you know, when the story goes, it's like you start getting older and you're like, I want to do this, and then you start looking into schools and trying to figure out how it all works, and eventually, once you get your real life together and the situation's possible, you pull the trigger. But it's pretty hard to become a wrestler because you really have to do it on your own. It has to be your decision. Like, no one's parents push them into wrestling. No one's parents drive them to wrestling practice. I mean, if your parents did do that for you,
his name was Joe Jackson.
Go hug them. Yeah, because you're pretty lucky. Like, you know, I've seen a few people at like wrestling schools where like they're like 16 and their mom's dropping them off at practice, and it's like, wow, like I wish I was doing this when I was 16, like, but there was no chance.
Yeah. Now, speaking of wrestling schools, were you training? Are you still? Well, obviously, I don't know if you do your training and all that, but is it through the Freelance Academy or?
So I've never been to basically there's a Freelance Academy. It's in Chicago. It's in the city. But I was trained I started in Florida, actually. So it's a long story, and I'll try to make it really quick. Basically, when I was 19, my parents moved to Florida, and I was like okay with it because I knew there were a lot of wrestling schools in Florida, and I looked online, and they were affordable, and I could like sneakily join wrestling without even having to like ask my parents because it was affordable enough.
Right.
That I could just give them the cash. Whereas like the ones near me were like thousands of dollars, and the ones in Florida, like for whatever reason, were like, pay $75 or $100 a month, and I was like, oh, I could pull that off. So it just worked, and they were moving to Florida. So once they moved, I was like, I'll go live with you guys for the summer because I was a college student. So I stayed the summer with them and just started training, and then I would go home for all the breaks and train, and then they started putting me in matches. But as soon as school was over, I moved back to Chicago. I was going to school in Illinois, but it was in Peoria, Illinois, so it was way too far from all the Chicago wrestling schools.
What's on Peoria?
Bradley University.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to school there, and then there was no wrestling schools anywhere nearby. I did for a little bit try to drive up to the Chicago schools under this guy, Bryce Benjamin, who ultimately did end up being my trainer.
Right.
But I was driving 2.5 hours to practice for 2 hours once a week, and it was just like, this isn't working.
Yeah, not working.
I had no form of income at the time. Like, it just didn't work. So I finished school, moved back to Chicago. Then the same guy, Bryce, I joined his school like full time. He basically retrained me because I'd wrestled like 8 or 9 matches in Florida, and I just wasn't trained very well. I got
green as fuck.
It was green as fuck, and I started training, got better, started doing matches here, and then so at the time he was running a school in Villa Park. Now he does run the freelance school in Chicago. There used to be this company, it's super contrived, but there's a company called Underground. There was a company called Freelance. Underground turned into Freelance Underground because Freelance sort of like owns it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Still like two different people running it, but there's Freelance Underground. Bryce was running the Underground school. Now it's the Freelance Underground school, and then it turned into the Freelance school. So yeah, long story short, Bryce.
Pat, I didn't ask you to give me a fucking headache coming on this show.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let me I'll write a novel and then I'll send it to you guys, and then you'll understand the Chicago wrestling scene, because that's what it would take for me to explain all this bullshit. But there's a wrestling school in Chicago called Freelance Wrestling School. I didn't get trained there, but if you want to be a wrestler and you live in the Chicago area, that would be where I would recommend you could go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't go there. I just go over to the Lucha Libre place in Villa Park, Illinois, when I want to get some training in. And yeah, because it's kind of like more like free reign versus me having to go in there and like not that I don't want to be in there like with beginners and stuff, but at the Lucha practice, it's more guys who are like actively wrestling.
Right. What can you tell me about DJ Z and your guys' relationship?
Yeah, so I met him at the Lucha place. So that's a perfect segue right here. He's just a guy he was living in Chicago, and when I was coming up in Chicago, and he was just at practices and he was on a lot of the shows, and I just kind of really quickly realized, like, holy shit, like, this guy has been on TV with TNA for like 7 years. Yeah,
he was Zima Ion, like X Division champion on a number of times.
Yeah, and like he's on the same shows as me, and he's at practice with me, and like I just kind of realized, like, I was like, this is just an incredible resource, and I hate to use the word like take advantage of it, but I was just like, this is an incredible resource I need to take advantage of. So I just started asking him as many questions as I could, and I just would try to like attach myself to him as much as possible, because the closer you stand to him, the more you're gonna like learn. I would just like try to be on his hip and just like watch how he would carry himself and just see how he acted at practice, and anything he would say, like I just like, keep that in mind. Like I don't take anyone's word as gospel, but everything he said seemed to be like right. And this guy held a job on TV for 7 years, so he obviously knows what he's talking about. So
made money, right?
Yeah, I just gravitated towards him and just kept asking questions and kept learning from him. And then through that, he's just such a good guy. He always treated me great. And then we just became actual friends. And then eventually he kind of just turned into like my mentor, because I would just go to him for any question I had about anything. He helped me more times than I could list off. And, you know, anytime he was going to a show, he'd always let me, if I wanted to hop in the car, or if I wanted to, you know, come with, like he would vouch for me to promoters. So a lot of the places I broke onto was help from him, like getting me a chance. And, you know, that's hard to stick your neck out for someone in wrestling, is like, I don't ever do it, you know, like, so I'm so thankful for him to do that.
Well, hey, at least he's in WWE now. So there you go.
Yeah. I would never ask him for anything like that, but but yeah, he's just, man, I lived with him for a year, and he's just someone I owe a lot to. And it's, I don't know, like I think I'd be like a good wrestler if I never met DJ Z, but I wouldn't be what I am. Like it's, you can always like talk about people who've helped you in your life. Like, oh, I wouldn't be where I am today without this person. But a lot of times you would be, you know, like you would have found someone else to like help you or talk to or ask questions. But there's a lot of things I wouldn't have done at this point if it wasn't for Z. And just following his lead, man, like carrying yourself like a professional, like treating it like a business. There's such a difference between acting pro and acting indie, and he acted pro, and I try to act pro, you know.
Hey, act like you've been there, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I put out there for people to call in and ask you a couple questions, and there was one that I really picked out, and he's actually, because he's one of our associates here at Juice Pro Wrestling, Bruiser Bodie, or he goes by the name of Josh Bodie. He's actually spoke to you before. So I'm going to play this real quick and see if you can answer his questions, and we'll go from there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this is questions for Monix. Got a couple questions. This is Bruiser Bodie. I had the pleasure of speaking with you at Where Wrestling 5, and you brought up a lot of good points when we were talking about being heels and feuding in the business and how that spreads to social media. So my questions for you is, what are your thoughts on feuding on social media, carrying that over into the ring, into the storyline, and then keeping kayfabe alive on social media and different outlets like that? And piggybacking on that question, do you think heels should stay heels in public on social media, other outlets as well, and at meet and greets, like not even doing meet and greets, or being there and still playing that heel persona? Because I think that's something that's not alive, and I'd like to see that come back. And I think it just adds to the mystique and the suspension of disbelief. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So, I think that's a really good comment, and question and statement all in one. I don't know how to describe that, but as far as the first part about keeping kayfabe alive and shooting on the internet, there's this new way that people are kind of doing work shoots on the internet, and sometimes it blurs the line and you're unsure of it. I think it's great. I think actually shooting online is I don't know. I guess it just depends. Like if you have phone and you're feeling like, you know what, this person's disrespecting me or this person's doing this wrong, and you want to just say it, who's stopping you? You know, like we live in 2019. You can say whatever you want. So if you feel the need to do it, if you need to shoot on another wrestler, go for it. Like, and as a wrestler, I think, I've done it. There's times you need to stand up for yourself, and there's also times people need to be held accountable. And if people in business, everyone's got no backbone and people are scared to like upset people and ruffle feathers, social media is never going to always like you. There's always going to be people who poke holes in what you say, who disagree with you, who don't like you.
They'll correct your spelling, even though you only have a certain amount of characters. Yeah. Like, I have to talk like an idiot.
Yeah, I could be 1,000% babyface and polite and nice to everyone, but there's still someone who's not going to like me. So I think you just got to be yourself. And if someone's rubbing you the wrong way or pissing you off, or like, and you want to say something about it, say something about it. I also think like going off that, interacting with other wrestlers, as far as work to shoot. So I get really frustrated because it's not that hard to just go a little extra mile to keep it magical for the fans.
Exactly.
They're all on Instagram, they're all on Facebook, they're all on Twitter. They see what we're doing. They see the stuff. They see who's liking and commenting on what. I had a year-long feud with Simon Grimm or Simon Gotch.
Yeah.
Not once during that year-long feud did I like one of his Instagram pictures or tweets or something like that. Like, it's not that hard, guys.
Yeah, you weren't Hacksaw Jim Duggan riding with the Sheik with a bunch of cocaine and marijuana.
It's like everyone knows that all the wrestlers know each other and get along and whatever. But like, if you're doing an angle with someone, like, just don't. I just think you shouldn't be like liking their pictures and stuff. It's not. Yeah. It's just a small thing. They know you still like them. Like, if you feel weird about it, just run out the show. Like, hey man, the reason I don't like your pictures anymore is because we're feuding. Like, and if you have to have that conversation, like, they're not a pro wrestler, you know?
Exactly.
Or like, I don't know. I just think it's weird that like people feel this need to like each other's stuff.
Yeah.
I like stuff with people I like or things I like all the time, but like if I'm in a feud with you, like it's just something I wouldn't do. And I don't know. It's just weird. Like my social media pages are my wrestling character, whether I want them to be or not. But at the same time, you know, I post pictures of my family and my dog or whatever, you know, stuff like that.
But yeah, so it's like you said, people know that though, because they know what wrestling is. You know, we never dropped the F-bomb on this show, but people know what it is. And there's still, it's kudos to you as a player in the game. And I think one of the perfect examples nowadays is a guy, he's been around the block. Chris Jericho is like one of the perfect examples of that, dude.
Dude,
if you
so
can
good.
still keep it, like I said, everybody knows what wrestling is, but if you're going to feud with someone or you're going to be that heel, you're a dick. I'm sorry. You're going to be a dick, and you could be a dick to the fans, and I get it. Like, if I was to go up to him and he's in the midst of a badass heel run, he's just like, fuck you, I don't want to sign your shit, I'd walk away and be like, that was so fucking awesome. You know? Because I get it. But there's so many butthurt people out there that just think, well, because they think they know what wrestling is. Like, no, you don't. And for someone to be able to pull it off in this day and age, I think it takes a lot more fucking work personally than back when they were trying to hide it. You know, because it's the believability, you know?
Yeah. Jericho's incredible. Like, and he does it and plant seeds in his podcast. Like, he's the last time I got worked really hard was Jericho, because this was probably like 2 years ago now, or 3 years ago. It was like the last time I really felt stupid as
Did
a wrestler.
You just make the list?
I just got worked. I was listening to like a Jericho podcast, and it was like leading up to the Omega stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the original, like when he was gonna go to Japan, he was talking with Don Callis about Impact and like New Japan and just like the whole like Alpha versus Omega, like the Winnipeg stuff. So I'm just listening to this podcast, and then like Callis was just like, yo, so like, is anyone in New Japan, like, everyone been good to you? Everyone been respectful? He's like, oh yeah, like all the talent's been great. Like, I'm super excited. I can't wait to go to Tokyo for the big match with Omega. He's like, yeah, but you know, the only like small thing that I did think was kind of weird was like, I get that we're not like, I don't know if they were the title match or whatever, or like, but they were going on last. I think they were the main event, right? And this wasn't the title match. I think the only thing I didn't like was that, like, I think that Naito guy, like, I think he's kind of salty that like we got put ahead of them. But like, hey man, and on the day, like, I'm the bigger name. Like, sorry, like, it is what it is. Like, someday you'll be the bigger name and you'll go on last. And he just kind of mentioned that like Naito gave him like a dirty look, or like didn't shake his hand or something like that. And he just slightly briefly mentioned this in the podcast and didn't get too into it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, that after that show, the Naito angle began, you know? So like, I was like, man, I was listening to that podcast and I was thinking that because Jericho was just like, yeah, you know, kind of fuck him, man. He's kind of a dick, or like however he mentioned it. He got my ass, you know, like, I was like, motherfucker.
Well, that's what's cool, because that's how character development, and you can call me out if you think I'm fucking incorrect on this. I think character development nowadays is play out more in social media than it is on. I don't give a fuck if you're in, especially ain't in WWE, because there ain't no character development going on there anymore, unless you're, you know, Bray Wyatt, but then they're just gonna cut you off anyway. But I think it's done more on social media nowadays, and the way it is done is like you said, when you get worked, and it's, holy shit, I was just listening to this podcast, you know, thinking whatever, and then this angle happens. And I love that, and that's why I love like the Bucks and AEW, because you watch BTE and like this shit just plays out, and they don't have like TV going yet, but you know, that's how you figure out these angles and shit that are going on, and shit that you thought was maybe a joke or a work or whatever, and then it turns into this hot angle. It's like, fuck, got you, you know?
Yeah, I had my first experience of it where like it got like actually picked up, because like I think me and Simon Grimm did a really good job of making people believe that we didn't like each other, and I was clearly the good guy and he was clearly the bad guy, and we had a good year-long feud. But like, I think everyone kind of knew it was a storyline at a wrestling show. So I just had a thing with Sam Adonis where like we started shooting on each other on Twitter and stuff.
I was there for that. And that was a hell of a match, by the way. You guys, we were right up in the bleachers. If you go on the Juice Pro Wrestling Instagram, I'm pretty sure I tagged you in it. But that, what was it? The back body drop on the fucking bleach. God damn, dude. God damn.
So like we've had a few matches, or like tag team matches, and we've had some run-ins, and so it's been this storyline that was built at a wrestling show, but it kind of took off into its own thing, where now it turned into like a Twitter thing. You know, we started making some personal remarks. I mentioned, you know, that like he thinks he's this big star or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, well, he's like, oh, I'm wrestling everywhere. And I'm like, well, I've been wrestling everywhere too, man. I wrestled 138 matches last year, and I didn't have some more successful, more famous, more talented brother to leech off of. And so you start throwing these little jabs at each other.
Fuck
and
you,
now
Corey
it starts to
Graves.
feel a little more real, right? And those jabs are real, though. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Sam Adonis didn't tell me to say something about his brother. He doesn't want anyone mentioning Corey Graves. Like,
Right.
he wants, you know, like he wants to build his own shit. Like, that just makes, you know, so you start saying these controversial things, and things start to get a little more like,
Heated.
oh, do they not actually like each other? Then something goes wrong in the match, and there's a legitimate
reason to believe.
He gets busted open. He's bleeding. The match goes into kind of awkward mode. It almost gets stopped. It gets restarted. A lot of chair shots are involved. Kind of like, what happened there?
Yeah.
Is this real? Is it not real?
I can't believe you
Then
guys
you go
were
to the
taking
back.
chair shots to the head in that match.
Well, yeah, and there's exactly. Do people? And let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Do people on indie wrestling shows hit each other in the head with chairs anymore? No, they don't.
No.
Like, that doesn't happen.
Because concussion,
so,
I mean, that shit's real, you know? The Chris Nowinski thing and the Benoit thing and all that, you know? It all plays.
I am not trying to hit anyone in the head with a chair on an indie wrestling show.
Right.
So these things start happening, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? Then you go to the back, and one guy's bleeding and yelling at the other, wanting whatever to go down, and one person's calling one person reckless, and the other person's telling the other person like they have no idea what they're talking about, and it's this real thing. And now these dirt sheet companies or like internet websites are picking it up. So Sam Adonis had to get interviewed like two or three companies. Like, if you search this, Wrestling Inc. was one.
Yep.
There's like another one that I can't think of, but like I've seen a few posts about it, and I haven't gotten interviewed about it. But he basically like set the record straight that like basically an accident happened in the ring, and that we did not come to blows in the back. But yeah, like the fact that he had to finally break kayfabe and say like, this is what happened because we blurred the lines that much is pretty crazy, because I haven't had that experience yet.
And that's fucking awesome. And, you know, and early in your career, dude, to have that, I'm kind of pissed that it stopped, because that's money right there. Let that build. Let the people hate, and then next time you go at it at Warrior or Freelance, I don't know how much is Sam at Freelance at all much, or
no. So yeah. So I guess I am breaking kayfabe here, because I'm just gonna like I told you earlier on this podcast, I'm gonna be transparent and honest. When I realized like what was happening, that people were like so like confused, the promoter was confused, that workers were confused. I was getting messages from wrestlers, you know, like they thought it was real, and because it was real. Like, this accident happened. It wasn't real. I didn't purposely hurt him. But this thing happened, so everyone was very confused.
It's like the Sammy Callahan, Eddie Edwards shit, you know?
Yes, same shit. I talked with Sammy. I literally talked with Sammy about it. The pro wrestler in me screamed to myself, "Run with this!
Yes.
Run with this! Run with this! You have to, like, you fucking need to make it clear that you hate Sam Adonis. This is on purpose. Blah blah blah. You wanted to fight him. Like, run with this." But Warrior Wrestling, you know, it runs at a Catholic school.
Right.
It's a fundraiser. Like, we're not supposed to be bleeding on these shows. We kind of just got to clarify that it was an accident, et cetera. So unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be a continued blood feud angle. I don't think there will be another match. I think we're just going to move on, but
that's a shame. I mean, maybe it doesn't play out at Warrior though, you know?
I don't know, man.
No disrespect to them, because Steve's our boy.
Yeah, maybe I spin it on you right now, and I secretly do still hate him. But
you do.
But yeah, no, like, it's just I don't think it's going to continue, and it's unfortunate, because I feel like
that's a money feud, dude.
Like I don't want to call myself like a purist, but like I feel like Terry Funk would shake his head at me, you know, like if he heard that I wasn't running with it, you know, like I feel like my idols, like I feel like Roddy Piper would be like, "You're doing the business wrong. You're doing the business wrong, kid.
What you doing, kid?"
Yeah, every piece of me like wishes there'd be another match at Warrior Wrestling. I do not think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you never, maybe somewhere else. Like I said, Steve's one of our
it's
boys.
2019.
Yeah, right. It doesn't have to necessarily be at Warrior. The feud started there,
Right.
But it doesn't have to end there.
It's hard. So getting back to that voicemail and answer all that.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, like, it's hard. It's 2019. Like, the political correctness shit is there and it exists. And if you get too controversial, you can. Yeah, it sucks. You can literally lose fans. And for example, that company, it's a lot of kids are there, and like it's a Catholic school. It's a fundraiser. Like,
right.
So like sometimes you got to treat your pro wrestling different. To end this topic, what he said on the voicemail, I did want to say about social media with keeping kayfabe as a heel. 1000%. I think if you're a heel, you should run it all the way, like MJF. That dude has never broken kayfabe, and there's a reason he's the only heel that people actually like. Like, he's the only up and coming heel right now that like exists.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of guys.
People think he's a straight up dick.
Yeah, like he's never broken kayfabe.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a heel, and who knows, maybe I will be soon. You'll see that kind of actions from me, like it, because I work majority babyface right now,
right?
So I carry my social media as that way, and right now it's true to me and it's real to me, and like I'm glad I get to be that character, and I'm glad I get to just like be myself and be happy because I am enjoying wrestling. I can just be that way on social media. Yeah. But if I was a heel, like, that's how I think I would be. I love the guys who are able to, like you were saying, Jericho, that are able to just like be that and spin it in a realistic and believable way. And one guy that does a good job of it, actually, in the Chicago area, he doesn't do it full blown like MJF, but he does a pretty decent job in my opinion. There's a guy named GPA. He's just a heel on Twitter most of the time, but yeah, he doesn't do it the way MJF does it. But all the fans have fun with it. They just like tweet at him, #beat-up-GPA, and he'll just like quote tweet fans, and just like his responses are just like funny and snarky, but it still ain't that 100% all in social media presence of MJF would never put someone over.
Right.
On Twitter, like you would never see him being like, "Look, this guy."
Did you see?
I just had a great match with this guy.
He tried to poison Cody's dog. God damn it! Brandy's like, motherfucker.
It's so entertaining. And
did you see the Twitter? Not to cut you off, Pat, but the Twitter thing that came out. I think it was like today or in the last day or two, where it was one of the earlier takeovers when Samoa Joe was the champ, and he's coming out from backstage and. Obviously, MJF is working an extra as a security guy backstage, and Joe's walking with the belt to the ring, and he just shoves MJF against the wall.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw it today, and it's like stuff like that wouldn't even be funny if he didn't act the way he acts.
Right?
It's like it's man. Like I just think it's almost frustrating to me. Like as I talk to you, because I'm like, I want to be like being a heel. I don't want to say like it'd be easy, but here's the thing. No one wants to be a true heel.
No,
and
not in this day and age.
If you decide to be one, no one. And if you decide to be one, like you have such an edge over everyone because there's like 4 people out there who are really actually doing it on the indies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who play heel, but who are 1,000%.
They're still
heel.
Face. It's like kind of like blurred. Like there's no. I think he is like one of the last like true heels out there right now. And I'll tell you another guy that a lot of people don't mention, but I thought he's done a damn good job, and especially on Twitter, because there's a lot of times where I'm watching, I'm like, what the fuck is he saying? Is Disco Inferno?
Yeah.
Straight up,
like,
man.
He's at the point where you don't know if he even knows better. Like you're confused. You're like, is he working us, or is he literally that? Is that who he is in real life? It's there's a spot in wrestling right now for people like that. but then you run the risk of like people thinking that you're not playing a character.
Yeah, that's really you.
Man, like, and then you don't get booked. So you gotta be willing to die on that hill. One is, I think Eli Drake was tweeting that like he doesn't think intergender matches should happen. And he was like calling girls out. And I don't know if they were doing. At first, I thought they were like doing an angle with it at TNA.
But no, it was real. They let him go.
Like, yeah, it was just he actually felt that way about women's wrestling or intergender wrestling. So it's like you just got to know like what things you should be heel on and what things you shouldn't be on, because you know, MJF, like, he doesn't touch stuff that's like offensive to people. I mean, he does, but like I think he's really good at towing that line.
Yeah, he's more of a traditional, I think, heel, where it's enough. He's a dick in enough of his actions and demeanors in a way that like people are like, oh, you know, fuck that. He's the guy that would trip an old lady crossing the street or something, you know, like, and just be like, oh, as opposed, you know, he's not out there being a bigot or being, you know, some stupid shit like that. He's doing a great fucking job, and kudos to AEW because they got a gold mine with that guy, and I think they're eventually going to work up an angle with him and Cody. It's got to be coming, you know.
Yeah, man. Like, he's got the wrestling world by the balls right now. So yeah, it's just like, I guess to sum up all that, like, I think for heels on the internet, like, you got yourself a gold mine if you want to actually do it.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing I want to get to real quick before we plug where people can find you. Your whole character change and progression. From what I personally, first of all, who does your fucking attire?
A guy named William Rockwell. His company is called Rockwell Masks. So if you go on like Instagram or Twitter, I think he has a Twitter. But yeah, he's on Instagram. That's Rockwell Masks. Yeah.
Yeah, not like the old '80s TV show Mask, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's badass, dude. I like how everything comes together. To me, it kind of looks like almost like a cyborg version of Carnage. I don't know if you're like up to like on comic book shit or anything.
Yeah,
like
hell yeah, that's one of the coolest comparisons I've heard.
Yeah, it really reminds me of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
Thank you.
And I like that you get it like with the whole like cyborg android kind of vibe, because like my whole thing was I wanted a visual presentation of like so I'm like my character, I'm the project. So like I'm the human embodiment of like what a project is, and I'm just telling people like in wrestling fans like everyone's a project. Like it's okay to be a project if you're not where you want to be, if you're not at the point in your life that you want to be, that's fine. Like it's okay as long as you're doing everything you got to do every day to get to that place or be that person. So I'm just kind of being like, hey, take my hand. We're all going to make it. I'm a project. You're a project. So I want to be the human embodiment of a project. And so I was this guy, Pat Monix, who's wrestling, and I'm saying all these things, and I have this barcode logo, and I'm trying to run with this vibe, this project vibe. And then the next step was, okay, how do I visually represent that? So like, what would a project look like? And to me, like, a project could be like, you know, made in the lab.
Yeah.
Kind of like a cyborg, kind of like an android, kind of like Wolverine Weapon X.
Yep.
So
cyborg with Van Damme.
Yeah. I wanted to have entrance gear that exemplified that. So I think it's funny, like, I'll occasionally get someone who's kind of confused and they're like, wait, are you going to like be a cyborg? Are you going to wrestle like a cyborg? Or like, I'm like, no. Like,
yeah, motherfucker, put a microchip in me and watch me go.
I talk like this now. Like, yeah. Like,
danger.
No,
danger.
Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. And it really frustrates me when people say that, because I'm just like, dude, don't think too much into it. You know, it's pageantry, it's pro wrestling, it's entrance gear.
It's some dope ass ring gear too, man. Like it was cool too, because I'd seen you before without that, and then when you kind of morphed into that, I'm like, man, this motherfucker right here, dude. Like it's fucking cool. Yeah. Bring it on.
it's kind of like it's war paint, like
Yeah.
If like a lot of wrestlers were like Sting wears face paint, but he's still like Steve Borden. He's still a human. It's not like Sting is like, Sting still yells woo.
Yeah, he does woo. That did always. I'm gonna touch on that real quick because you just struck something up within.
Yeah.
Why the fuck did Sting just totally rip Ric Flair and everybody was cool with it? They were just cool.
He got away with it.
Woo!
Yeah, he just totally got away with it. I don't know how that worked. Maybe it's because they had such a good feud that the fans were like, okay, like those are the two guys who woo.
Yeah, right. Well, and speaking of woo, did you just see Ric Flair endorsing like Family Express coffee or whatever it was? I saw it today on Twitter, dude. It was like, oh my God, it's like these aren't ice cubes, they're coffee cubes or something. Like, and he does the woo, and then there's like a little droplet of it coming down from the fucking thing, the fountain, and it's like, whoa.
I have not seen that. That is crazy.
Yeah,
he is a madman.
Go on his Twitter and check it out. Flair's always been doing some weird shit like that. He had I believe he had a lotto game in North Carolina for a while too back in the day. God damn. But just get back real quick to your outfit and your attire. Was there anything in particular that you like directly drew inspirado from?
Yeah, there was so Wolverine when he was Weapon X, I briefly mentioned that he was made in a lab or whatever. He was worked on in the lab. He was he wasn't made there, but like he was turned into Wolverine metal and everything. So Weapon X, when he came out, like he had the kind of like helmet and all the cords and like the batteries around his waist, like in the comics, that was like my first thing where I was like, okay, these cords and these batteries or something, because that's visual, and no one in wrestling comes out with cords and batteries. A lot of people wear masks and helmets and stuff, but I was like, that's unique. Like, I'll be the only person in the entire wrestling world who has batteries and cords. So I need that. And then I also just wanted it to look like really cool and larger than life and kind of that superhero vibe. So I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I found a picture of, if anyone knows who these people are, but Goku is the main character in Dragon Ball Z. His dad is Bardock. I found a cool picture of Bardock wearing Saiyan armor. And in the video game, they gave him this mask for like a storyline that they did in the video game. But in part of the story, like half the mask breaks off. So I came across that picture one day and I was like, whoa, that's like that look of that like futuristic armor and then that mask like half broken. Like if I could mix that in with like Weapon X and have the cords and the batteries, now this half broken mask actually almost looks like I'm like half cyborg, half human. Like they tried to turn me into this project, but like some of the humans still showing. And like the actual cyborg is like, and Terminator, like that's always kind of been the gimmick with android cyborg characters, is like half human, half this. Obviously, like when it comes to my wrestling character, I'm full human. Like everyone, like I'm clearly not that, but yeah, I just wanted to personify like I'm a pro wrestling android. Like everything I do, I eat, sleep, and breathe wrestling because like that's my life. The project has consumed me. Long story short.
I like that. That was a great answer. Where can people find you at on social media, Pat?
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram at Project Monix. And then Facebook, like on there's Pat Monix. I'm nearing 5,000, so I don't think I'll be able to add much people for much longer.
Thank God I got in when the get was good.
But yeah, it's weird. I don't really use any of my social medias for like personal purposes really anymore. It's kind of just all for wrestling. So like, if people want to add me on there, I will accept them. I don't care. Like I still promote stuff. I still like try to sell my merch off there. Like, so yeah, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram and Twitter are at Project Monix. And then I have a website called projectmonix.com, which has a direct link to all my merchandise. And there's a few cool things on there, but like I gotta get back to updating it. It's a little dated right now.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna give you a freebie here. Consider this a freebie from the Juice. kids, they love masks. They like the Rey Mysterios. They like the Cans. How about we get some Pat Monix, fucking Project Monix mask for the niños?
Yeah,
Dude, I just gave you a ticket to print money, son.
So you know how like Rey Mysterio, he has this like full head mask, but he also has, sometimes he would wear like the mask that has all the straps on the back that opens like a lot of parts of the head.
Yeah.
I would love to get Project Monix masks made like that, like it's like a lucha mask, but it's
right.
Like, so because like then you can make them affordably.
Well, like the Halloween masks where they got like the strap, like the old school, not necessarily like the old school, like back in the 50s when they had like the half plastic mask, with the rubber band around, something like that. But like if you go to like the dollar store, they'll have the cheap Frankenstein or Dracula mask there. It's like a really pliable rubber or plastic almost deal.
Yeah.
And, something like that. Holy shit, dude. I think you'd make some fucking cash, no doubt.
Yeah. Certainly at like the family friendly shows, like you said, the Niños, I think that'd be a great merchandise item. I'm always looking for ideas, and that is a great idea. So if I can find the right person to make them at an affordable price, like that would definitely be something I would do.
Yeah, for sure, man. Maybe we can help you with that.
Or we could get WWE or AEW to like sign me up, and then like I don't know, like I sound pretty marketable, right? Like,
yeah, right. That is correct.
and they probably do a much better job on putting it all together. And
like hitting up Mattel, like, hey, we need some fucking Project Monix masks. Here you go.
And then I only got to take 1%.
That's right. Hey, you got one foot in the door. Hit up fucking DJZ. Don't be afraid. Utilize that.
That's Joaquin Wild now.
Oh yeah, damn it, you got me hooked in again. I was trying to close on the episode just for time's sake, but here we go again. Here I go again on my own.
One last topic, right?
Yeah, right. One less project. I can't help it. I always think too. I'm thinking Project Pat because your name is Pat and you're Project Monix. No correlation between the two. So. Sorry.
I'm a fan. And I am okay with people randomly calling me Project Pat, but I can't run with it.
No, you can't run with it. I knew you can't either. It always crosses my mind. I'm like, I don't want to fuck it up, but whatever. What I was getting at though was maybe you get into WWE and we get a line of action figures going for you. We get, some fucking demon fucking masks, some crazy cyborg masks and all this shit, and then you just take over the world.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would be down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll keep doing everything on my end, and we'll cross that bridge when
but we can't go with DJZ being Jacques Cousteau or whatever they call him now.
Joaquin Wild.
Joaquin Wild.
That wild thing. Waka Wild. Yeah. So
God,
it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see how they run with that. What that's all going to be. The tapings. There's some pictures of the most recent NXT tapings and stuff, and he did come out in his light up suit still.
He's gonna, that's the WWE thing. He's gonna be essentially probably the same gimmick and character, but hey, we got to own the fucking name.
Yeah.
So they can make the action figures with the LED button on the back like Cyclops from the X-Men, back in the old Toy Biz days in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. I'm all about that shit. Hey, you got to come back on. We'll talk all kinds of fucking crazy comics and shit, man.
Yeah, I had a nightmare happen last night. I went to turn on my the light my red eye lights up. I was about to go out the curtain. I was about to go out the curtain and I go to hit the thing and it wasn't working. So I was like,
what the fuck?
It's not lighting up. So I gotta jiggle the wires around and shit and figure it out. But it ain't the end of the world. But if I don't light up, I'm not gonna get over.
You'll get over plenty, man. You got all the skills in the world, man. I thoroughly enjoy your work. I thank you very much for coming on. Hopefully we could do it again sometime. Actually, you know what, real quick, you got any upcoming shows that you can plug real quick?
Yeah. So this Thursday I have a show at the Windy City Thunderbolts baseball game. I think that's what it's called. Drizella Pro. I don't know how it really works. I think the wrestling's just directly after the game, but they got all the stuff on their Facebook and Instagram. Zello Pro. But yeah, nothing like too crazy coming up. I do IWA Mid-South in Jeffersonville, Indiana, almost every Thursday. July 5th is Freelance Wrestling. It's a big summer show with a bunch of other companies. So yeah, if you're in the area, I'd recommend that Freelance show will be a good one. Zello all summer is just kind of July? Like baseball show. I think it's July 5th.
Okay. Fuck, I would have them and then MLW and Cicero too. Fuck. Wrestling.
Yeah. So much going on.
It's a lot, man. But yeah, I'd definitely like to check it out.
Yeah, so I mean, other than those off the top of my head, nothing's really coming up. Summer's weird. There's like a lot of festival shows and baseball shows and stuff like that. But yeah, Freelance has a big one in July, and I think they have a big one in August too. And I think Freelance Underground and Freelance run August 16th and August 17th, but you know that's like 2 months away. So
yeah.
We
got plenty of time.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, hey man, if you want to come back on before that and talk about it, we're always open. You got my number.
Yeah, I would love to do another podcast with you guys. It's been a fun time, and it's nice. I enjoy that we just kind of talked about random wrestling stuff. So if someone gets to listen to this podcast, they're just gonna hear a lot of random stuff versus like every podcast that's like, where'd you start out wrestling? Where'd you get trained? Tell me about your first matches. You know, it's almost just like an autobiography.
Yeah.
A lot of the podcasts are, instead of kind of just us getting to talk about like different topics in wrestling and me just kind of be myself.
We're just hanging out. You know, Pat, I don't really give a fuck about your past. You know, let's just talk.
Yeah, like do I really need to talk for 15 minutes about where I got trained? You know, instead we were able to joke about like, yeah, like I got fucking trained here and then I tried to train here, but like then this place is this place, but like I'm not gonna explain it because it's stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I went to wrestling school. There we go.
Yeah.
Now I'm wrestling.
No, I appreciate that. I like the fact you get it. Like I like to keep it real on here. You know, we have a good time. We have some beers. We talk wrestling and we talk all kinds of other shit. You know.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that you get it, man. It's the shit.
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do enough of those other interviews as it is.
Yeah.
So
well, fuck that. Maybe next time we get you down here in the studio, you know, you're only about a half hour away from us, and show you a good time and fucking come in and record an episode, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and people, speaking of recording an episode, people can check us out on every podcast platform, whether you use iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, any of that shit. Look for Juice Pro Wrestling. We're on there. If you want to look us up on social media, we're on Twitter at JPW Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Juice Pro Wrestling. And if you want to leave us a voicemail talking about some shit you like, talk about some shit you didn't like that I don't give a fuck about, it's 1-872-267-4199. Hey, and Pat, there's one more thing we got to do.
Yeah.
We got to wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Shoot 'em, boy.
Wait. Can I plug something?
Yeah, fucking plug it away.
All right, guys. I just wanted to plug Juice Pro Wrestling. You got to check it out. That's my only recommendation. That's all I got, really. I would say Juice Pro Wrestling is what I would suggest you continue listening to, because what else would you do? You know, like where else would you listen to things? What else?
Yeah,
I mean, I can't think
up
of
like it's cold outside or something.
I can't think of anything else to plug. So yeah, keep listening, folks, and I'm gonna be back on someday.
Fuck yeah, Pat, you're the man. I'm gonna hug you so hard when I see you.
This is a good hug, air hug.
It's gonna be a bro hug. It's gonna be a business hug.
I'm in.
All right, brother.
All right, thank you so much for having me, y'all. And be good, drive fast, take chances, as they say.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna do sex to me?